Okay, hi everyone, welcome back, and in this update we are going to check out XCN's price chart and see what is happening in the short term. But before that, we are going to talk about this important tweet which was made about 10 days ago, but I just came across it and I think this is actually a bit of a fascinating tweet and it definitely caught my attention. Not really because it was hyped up or maybe it is full of buzzwords, absolutely not. It's actually because the numbers in here speak for themselves. First off, as you can see in here, we had $90 million in 24-hour trading volume, and that is definitely not a small potatoes. That kind of volume, in my view, means people are actually trading this thing and it's not just sitting there while a few wallets are moving some coins around. No, this is real liquidity, and when you see a spike like that, I think it usually means that something is happening. For example, either whales are positioning or maybe retail is finally waking up. Now, let's talk about security because the Skynet score in here is sitting at about 86.24, and that is definitely an straight A. And it's not just some random rating. No, they are actually audited by CertiK, which is one of the few names in the crypto security that actually means something, and they have done manual reviews, static analysis, and they were watching the chain 24/7. So yes, the code is solid. You are not walking into a rug pull situation in here. Now, what really impressed me was actually the governance score sitting at, I think, let's go back, around 93.35. And that, in my view, is huge because it means that the DAO is alive and kicking, people are voting, proposals are happening, and treasury is probably being used in smart ways. And combine that with a market score of 92.74, and you got a protocol that is not just technically sound, but it also has a lot of depth, real community, and market presence. Now, here is the part that might actually fly under the radar for most people. You see, ONYX is built on a UTXO model, and that's actually the same model that Bitcoin uses, and it's not some usual account-based system that you see, for example, on Ethereum. No, UTXO is scalable, it's very, very clean, and it is harder to mess up, and pair that with DAO governance through XCN, and you have got a setup that is both efficient and transparent at the same time. And trust me, that's actually quite rare in the crypto space. So what's the takeaway in here? You see, in my opinion, when you see volume spikes, governance scores in the 90s, and you are having a clean audit from CertiK, you don't really ignore these things, okay? You pay very close attention to it because this isn't just another token trying to ride a trend. No, XCN is showing signs of real traction and the fundamentals are lining up in here perfectly. And if this momentum keeps up, we could be looking at a serious breakout. And I think the chart certainly in the mid to long term suggests that. Why? In my view, in the long term in XCN, we are having off of the lowest low, 5-wave up, followed by, I'm gonna say most likely, an ABC expanded flat down, followed by yet another very, very strong 5-wave on the upside. And in my opinion, these are actually the subwaves for a 1, 2, 3. And as long as I'm not proven otherwise, I'm gonna say to about the lows down here, a correction for wave 4. And guess what is next if this scenario is happening? If you are a regular viewer, you know the answer. We are going to have another strong move up into wave 5, which the bare minimum target in that phase is going to be taking the highs in here around 4.9, let's say 5 cents area. But I think we can actually go quite a bit higher than that. However, if you really, really want to be conservative and consider your target around the highs in here, okay, even according to that scenario, that's like about a 4.5x move on the upside starting from the current point, which is definitely not that bad. Now, when you zoom in more, you realize that we are probably having in this phase, a very slow and choppy move down, which is one very important characteristic of a correction structure. And as long as we are not taking the lowest slow down here about 0.7 of a cents, I think you do actually have a valid argument for having in here a 1-2 setup, meaning what's next? Yup, big move up into wave 3, 4, 5. And if this count is happening, I don't really think that we are only going to stop around the highs in here about 5 cents region. I think we're going to go quite a bit higher than that. And it's very important to understand that in terms of Helios waves, wave 3 is known to be quite a sharp and a strong move on the upside. So I think makes perfect sense to argue that in ONYX coin in the midterm, we are going to have yet another at least magnificent phase of the bull run, and the majority of the move up that we are going to get in XCN, I believe it's actually going to happen into this wave 3 right in here, and then followed by a correction 4, and we can have another move on the upside, but I don't really expect this move up to be that strong. I'm actually counting on this thing to get extended quite a bit, and your patience, hopefully in the midterm, meaning I'm gonna say probably in the next 6 months to a year, is going to be rewarded big time. Now, having said all that good stuff, let's go on some lower time frames and see what is going on. And unfortunately, what we talked about in the previous video, I'm going to argue pretty much played out. Why? Because if you remember, the last time that we talked about ONYX coin, we were actually around here, and the idea was that this can be a 5-wave up, and since we are having in here some sort of a slow move on the downside, so maybe these are the subwaves for an A, B, and we said we can get in the short term another move up into our C leg. However, overall, this is probably going to be a bit of a bearish count, indicating after this short-term move on the upside is over, we are going to have a continuation of the move down. And as you can see, unfortunately, exactly that scenario played out. We got actually a good move on the upside. I didn't honestly expect this move up to be that deep, but then, well, we continued our move down. Question is, can we argue we're gonna hit our final low soon, or maybe the final low is already in? In my view, probably not. Why is that? You see, if you want to say that we are having our final low around this area, for example, maybe this is like a very important support, then okay, in terms of Helios waves, you need to be able to show me off of the lows a 5-wave on the upside. And when I go on the live chart, maybe it's best to go actually on 15-minute time frame so you can see the candles a bit better and zoom in more. As you can see, it seems like that in this phase, we are having like 5 up into a correction for wave B and another move up into our C leg as opposed to an impulse. And this pattern sort of kind of got confirmed the moment that in XCN we went down and took these lows down here, which the lowest one is about 1.11 cents. So what is it that I'm trying to tell you? You see, there is a chance that in ONYX coin you may see something like this, another move up in the short term. However, do not be too excited, because odds are we are having overall a correction structure. And for example, this can be yet another ABC, and on a higher degree, you're just having probably the subwaves for a WXY, a double zigzag, meaning what's next? Another move on the downside. And classic technical analysis, meaning support and resistances and gaps, certainly suggest this scenario is happening. Why? Because we talked about this in every single video. It is getting quite boring, but these days about 85% of you guys are new viewers. So for those other 15%, I would like to apologize for being repetitive. For those other 85%, watch this one closely, because I do not believe honestly that in XCN around the current area we are having a whole lot of strong support until where? Until about the lows down here between, let's say, 0.8 of a cent to about 0.96 of a cent. And also when we got this move up, as you can see, it happened way too fast, and as a result of it, around here we did create a very important gap. And in my view, gaps 95+% of the time are going to get filled. So from my POV, makes perfect sense to argue. Number one, since around the current area, we really do not have a whole lot of strong supports. And number two, since I believe gaps most likely are going to get filled, well, okay, probably our move down in XCN is going to continue, and in it, we are going to visit this level once more. And let's hope that from here, we are going to have a very strong bounce back, a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-wave impulsive structure, generally a move up without a lot of overlapping of the waves. If we get this thing, it will be, in my view, an extremely bullish sign, indicating, you know what, in ONYX coin, we have hit our final low. For now, I would like to have this thing as my primary case. Also, what is going on in terms of indicators? Let's zoom in more. There we go. So, as you can see, we are having now sell signals in MACD and stock RSI at the same time. So the general theme according to indicators in weekly chart is definitely bearish. Do not get that twisted. However, pay attention to a stock RSI because we are around the extreme oversold levels. So to me, this suggests that bears are actually kind of running out of steam, and soon, maybe after having another 10 to 20% move on the downside, we are going to hopefully hit our final low and get a very strong bounce back. So overall, still bearish. However, we are starting to see signs of hope. And now let's go on daily time frame. Okay, the situation once more is kind of sort of the same. We do have sell signals in these two indicators at the same time. So once more, this is yet another reason to believe our move down is going to continue. And let's actually check out H1 time frame real quick. There we go. You see, you might say, well, okay, we are having in here a low, the other one is a lower low, but in MACD, this is a low, the other one is a higher low. So essentially, we are having a beautiful bullish divergence. However, recently, XCN has got into the habit of breaking bullish divergence, and as a result of breaking those lines, we are going to witness some sharp moves on the downside. For example, this is actually a perfect case. You see, in here, we had, as you can see, a beautiful bullish divergence, and the moment that we broke the line, what happened from this point to about the lows? Yes, this is about a 15% move on the downside. So if you want to argue that our move down is going to continue a little bit more, okay, once more, I'm going to argue you need to have your eyes on this important divergence line. As long as we are not breaking it, fair enough, maybe we are going to get a bounce back, and maybe actually I am wrong and we are going to hit our final low around the current area, because let's be honest, there is no certainty in any market. At any given moment, we are only talking about different possibilities. But the moment that you see another move down in ONYX coin, maybe even after a decent bounce back, in order to get a break of this important divergence line, you know what? That's actually going to be a bearish confirmation, indicating our move down probably is going to continue in the next couple of days at quite a bit of a rapid pace. And let's honestly just get it over with and get to about this important level down here, because at that point, you are going to see me talking about the fact that we really do not have a whole lot of unfinished business around the lows, and we can comfortably get a very strong bounce back and hopefully start the next major phase of the bull run. So as a conclusion, the overall theme in ONYX coin, in my view, is absolutely bullish. Do not get that twisted. However, in the short term, once more, I'm going to argue our move down is going to continue a little bit more. And I hope I explained everything well and you understood what is going on in XCN's chart. Anyway, if you found any value in my content, I would really appreciate if you like this video and consider subscribing to my channel and follow me on Twitter. And if you want more, maybe you want a complete analysis for your own specific crypto, or maybe you want to learn some decent TA in order to be able to make good money in the markets, you can become a member and ask me anything you want. And until the next update, I hope you have a wonderful time. Goodbye.